He's actually at ORA, Oak Ridge Research Labs. And he must have recognized that our Drexel students have been very active in professional societies, giving poster sessions and talks and all that, and felt that maybe we do have students with the caliber, to be candidates for these Lindau Awards. So we got an invitation about 7 years ago to nominate 2 people whom we deemed to be qualified to take part in the national competition. And we submitted 2 names that first time, and both won. And ever since then, we've been invited every year to nominate 2, sometimes 3 for the competition. And we've been rather successful over the years. I mean, John, I think, is number 6 or number 7 of the students from Drexel who have in fact been successful in the Lindau competition. And this year we had not only John, we were, because of our success rate in the regular Lindau competition, we were invited for the first time to nominate 2 candidates for the economics competition. And believe it or not, one of our 2 won. I think he is right now, this week, over in Germany, taking part in the Lindau Awards the Lindau Nobel Laureate meeting in economics. All right, so I hope that this is of interest to you people, that if you qualify according to the criteria that I just set up, be like John, be like Tom Zilkin in economics, put together a great portfolio. Obviously, you have to show that you have the talent, and that will be based on what you put in your CV. And then it depends on how your professor nominates you, and then eventually your own personal statement about what you think you're going to get out of attending the Lindau Nobel Laureates meeting. So keep that in mind. The next time I send out this, Rona sends out the announcement that the competition is open. Think carefully about it. As John has vouched just now, you're going to get an experience of a lifetime. All right, any questions from you guys? For John and for Gaurav? Sure. Yeah.
So Gaurav, you gave a talk, 33 programs ago. What's changed, and what do you think you've learned in that time that you'd want to share with someone who's just starting out?
Change in terms of what?
What has changed since the first time you presented with us? And what would you recommend for someone just starting out or who's thinking about embarking on research like yours?
Well, I think when I spoke the first time at Books and Bagels, we were just throwing out the idea to have a platform for multidisciplinary discussion. So my first talk was about why do we need such a culture? And I think what has happened in this 1 year, 2 years or so, is that people look forward to Books and Bagels because of the kind of speakers we get, because of the way we market it, because
I didn't pay him to say that.
Somehow now there is a prestige associated with Books and Bagels. People look forward to it, and I look forward to it. It's so much fun coming here and hearing people speak about the research, and much of that. I say Books and Bagels is like Drexel's version of TED Talks. So I think we have come on.
John, who were the other students from the US who ended up going to Lindau this year?
There were quite a few from all over the country. I met about, just in the US, about maybe 20 or 30 of them. And everyone from MD PhD students to medical students to PhD students, and from all over, from California, from Baltimore, from Chicago. And everyone was at different stages in their career. It was nice to sort of have something. Well, it was a nice one because Belgium played U.S. on Thursday, I believe, and so we all rallied and went to a bar to watch that game. But it was also nice to sort of be in an international community and have something to talk about outside of just, you know, the fact that we're all from the States. We all talked about our research, people doing work in psychiatry, people doing work in biochemistry, medicine, physics, or biophysics, things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, that made a lot of friends, people that I will continue to talk to and even collaborate with in the future. So that was one of the best parts about that trip, I would say.
You know, there's a tendency for a lot of students at Drexel to think that, look, Drexel doesn't belong to the big leagues. So, I mean,
yeah, no,
you looked around, I mean,
no one seemed to really care about any of that type of stuff. It was all just about your research. It was about what are you doing, and how does your research inform, you know, future studies, and how does your research inform my research. It really came down to the science of it, which was really nice. And I think everyone that was there was really into that aspect of the trip. And yeah, I mean, I would say there's no, it was just about the science, about the work.
but can you give me the names of some of the schools?
Oh,
I mean, I just want to get an idea again
okay,
where you belong.
Well, actually, there was one student from Temple that I met. There was one from Temple. There was one from University of Alabama. A couple from Johns Hopkins. A couple from Stanford. One from UCSD, I believe. U Chicago. I can't remember now all of it. They're all from a wide variety of places.
Yeah, so John, I know you expected to meet all these great people, and it sounds like you actually did. What surprised you about being there?
What surprised me was, I guess, when you think about Nobel Prize winners or people that are sort of esteemed in their field, you assume that they're just these lofty figures that you hear about, you don't interact with. And so when you meet them, the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, oh my God, I know everything you've done, and this is everything that you've ever done for me in my research. And what surprised me was that sometimes they didn't want to talk about science. Sometimes they just wanted to talk about, oh, those are nice shoes, or, oh, hey, like, yeah, I mean, we saw you out on the dance floor the other night. Those were some great moves, you know, and it's really just, you know, they're people too, and they've done accomplished many amazing things, but at the end of the day, they're willing to talk to you about anything, and they are just as happy or just as, I guess, honored to be there as the scientists were. And it was really nice to know that everyone was really down to earth. And I would say it was also surprising to hear that none of them, not a single one was like, oh yeah, I meant to win the Nobel Prize. Yeah, I worked for it. They were all like, yeah, it was complete utter shock, and you know, I just got really lucky. That's what they always said.
Thanks.
Any more questions? If not, I guess we'll...
Oh,
sorry.
I just want to make a comment. Like you guys, when I see you guys study like quantum physics, astrophysics, astronomy, and the medicine and all that, and people say like a lot of things, nice things come out of collaboration, and that is true, and from different departments. It seems that the mind and the body, the material thing, kind of, people say, oh, mind is not real, and it's not. But actually, there was a lot of paranormal kind of research that was going on in the early 19th century, which they actually did the experiments about the kind of like meta kind of energy condensed into like a human form, that kind of stuff, and film. I don't know what happened, but the basis of the establishment of the science at the early to late 19th century somehow decided to exclude that part because it was too far out. But it was very verifiable in the film. And recently, It was not recent. It was actually a couple of decades or something. And a lot of research accumulated into pointing out that the cytoskeleton within the cell is not just holding the shape of the cell, but the microfibers within the cytoskeleton actually had certain shape. And it seems that they are the projector of the hyperdimension into the human body. Energy of hyperdimension energy into the human body. So that I want to, it says that look into, don't be afraid to look into something new. And that it really means, I think people should really, if they have something in their mind, but if people say that's really whatever. But I think it's a kind of, keep that in mind, in the back of mind, even though it's really far out, and keep it.
I certainly am sympathetic to that, but I think that there's also a range within which you can say, fine, this is reality, and then you're veering too much to the other side, into pseudoscience and things. I think that as long as people keep in mind that, look, if it's a scientific endeavor, there are certain things, certain principles that have to be followed. It's replicable, it's observable, all those things, right? It's logical. It's when people veer a little bit beyond.
No, I'm not actually talking about it. What I'm talking about actually is all documented. Actually, there was a person who got a degree in the quantum physics and psychology. He actually developed a method called holodynamics, and he does apply for both and counseling, and it has been phenomenal. The problem is that when he went into a mental institution and started fixing the patient so fast, the patient bed ran out so empty, and the hospital thought they were going to bankrupt, so they fired him. Basically, that's what happened,
It's true. When you blaze a new field, right? I mean, it's very likely that, you're thinking out of the box, and you're not going to get a lot of support. It's just like the guy from Australia who, everybody thought it was crazy. But, he persisted, and in the end, he was able to show them by just following, scientific principles that, look, I found the real reason why you have ulcers in the stomach. So eventually it's got to come back again to something that is logical and that's scientific.
To say these things are historically situated, right? Based partially on the tools, right? To speak to your research, what we have the ability to observe, which is based on the tools that we have, and that changes over time. So in 50 years from now, what you're talking about may be, really observable and given and testable.
Right. But it's true. I get emails from people who say, "Okay, I've got a new theory of relativity," or something like that. And there's a tendency on the part of people like me to say, Einstein had the last word on it, and that's it, and we don't bother to look at it, But you're certainly right. If somebody comes up with that and is persistent, then who knows? We guys have to be essentially dragged from our old views to accepting the new. And anytime that happens, there's going to be a revolution in science taking place. But it is hard on the people who are trying to lead the way in that revolution. You feel that feeling of talking to these guys and Lindau?
Yeah, well,
sometimes they feel as if they are